You know what we don't need right now with Joel Embiid being out? We don't need Victor Wembanyama coming to South Philadelphia, and we sure as heck don't need the third best rebounding team in Philadelphia, or excuse me, in the NBA coming to Philadelphia in the San Antonio Spurs. But you know what, Keith? That's exactly what's happening tonight at 8 o'clock. Boy, oh boy. We'll break it all down in this edition of Locked On 76ers.
You are Locked On 76ers, your daily Philadelphia 76ers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Keith Pompey, longtime beat writer for the 76ers. Marc Farzetta, longtime Philly sports talker with you in the city of brotherly love. Keith, we got to get to see we got to see if Kelly Oubre can bounce back after a rough performance in Boston. Tyrese Maxey, what he needs tonight, what we need to see from him tonight. And you have some interesting numbers there about Tyrese Maxey and the recent history against the San Antonio Spurs. But the big question is what to do against Victor Wembanyama. And oh my goodness gracious, Keith. I can't think of a worse time to face him. Obviously without Joel Embiid tonight. But given the rebounding performance against the Boston Celtics, it's not going to get that much better. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and predict not better at all against the San Antonio Spurs tonight. How would you handle Wemby tonight, Keith?
You know, if you're drumming, the best thing that you can do and Bona and whoever guards him is you got to use extreme physicality, right? I mean, you got to try to push him off his spots. You got to try to get into his head. You may need to double team him at times, force him into contested mid-range shots. I think this is the best way for the 76ers to defend him. Now, you remember last year when they played, now that game was crazy. That was the game where Joel Embiid actually got ejected for going after the female referee.
Jenna Schroeder, yeah.
Yeah, but it was one of those. The thing about that game that really stood out to me was how Drummond was trying to intimidate Wemby. And you remember at one point Drummond got ejected, or they told him to leave, and then he came back and they realized he didn't do anything wrong. It was a wacko game. But yeah, that's what you have to do with Wemby. Now, the thing is, Draymond Green tried to do that to him earlier this season, and Wemby ended up dunking on him. Right, and yelling and all this. So, but in the past, the knock was you had to be extremely physical, or not knock. It was the game plan, the blueprint was be extremely physical with him, and you would see if he would back down. So that's what the 76ers are going to have to try to do.
So here's my concern. First off, yes, absolutely. Second, the Sixers have one guy that could do that. Like Andre Drummond is the only guy I trust that can play physical, because if Bona tries to play physical, he'll have 6 fouls like in 3 minutes. Like it'll be ridiculous because he's a walking foul. We've talked about it all year. But then I shift to the game we just watched against Boston. Now, on one side, you can look at the 2 past games. One for the Sixers taking on the Celtics, not being able to box out Kata, for instance, not being able to keep him off the offensive glass, not being able to keep him off the glass in general. Then on the other side of it, you look at the fact that the San Antonio Spurs are coming off their first loss since the end of January. Yeah, that's right. Undefeated through the month of February, 11-0. Then they come off this loss against the New York Knicks 2 nights ago. They struggled in that one. Wemby struggled in that one. They struggled on the glass in that one as well. You hope that that's a trend for them now that's just starting, but it's unlikely. So this comes down to Nick Nurse, because it can't just be one guy trying to contain Victor Wembanyama. The one guy that has the best shot at it is obviously Andre Drummond. As I said earlier, I don't trust Bona to stay out of foul trouble going up against Wembanyama tonight. It's got to be some kind of team effort in all this, and I know every team probably goes into it thinking the same thing. But if it ain't going to be Drummond, if he can't help, if it ain't going to be Bona, what's the other option here? What else could Nick Nurse do? What else can he scheme up, if anything, to try to at least contain? You can't stop him. You can only hope to contain him when it comes to Victor Wembanyama.
And that's the and the one thing is, you don't want to focus too heavily on him because they have other teams. I mean, there's a reason why this team won 11 games in a row, right?
Mm-hmm.
But he is a crucial part of their success. Now, the thing is, we have guys like Dominic Barlow, who played his first 2 seasons with the Spurs. So he has knowledge of Wemby. He was actually on that team when Joel Embiid scored the 70 points against Wemby. So Barlow, may know some tricks of the trade, some things that could get under his skin, right? Jabari Walker, he's going to have to get physical with him as well. He's going to have to be in there. The problem is once you get rid of Drummond, you're at a huge height disadvantage, right? There's another guy, maybe Trendon Watford could try to do something, but it's just a matchup problem. Now, the thing is, if you're the Spurs and you know that the 76ers are going to try to do that, if you're Wemby and with a high basketball IQ, well, this is one of those games where you rack up a lot of assists, right? De'Aaron Fox is going to get off, Castle is going to get off. Other guys are going to come in and have stellar games against the 76ers. So, yes, as much as you want to get physical with Wemby and all this and attract the crowd, we forget De'Aaron Fox was an all-star this season as well. Castle is the reigning rookie of the year, arguably the best sophomore player in the league. So I just feel like you focus too much on him, and you have to focus on him. But if you focus too much on him, there's a fine line on what the Spurs can do to you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's that catch-22. It's also the fact that the biggest drop-off in talent position to position is obviously Wemby, the field, pretty much. I like Tyrese Maxey tonight. I like him having a big game, a bounce-back game. We're going to get to those numbers in a second. But if you're Nick Nurse, the guy that you're losing sleep over tonight, or last night rather, is obviously Victor Wembanyama. So we'll focus on that. I know that'll be the focus of Nick Nurse and the team tonight, and we'll talk about what we need to see from Tyrese Maxey tonight. And history would indicate good things for Maxey against the Spurs this evening. We'll talk about that more when we return. This is Locked On 76ers and Locked On Sixers YouTube channel. Back after this. And right now it's time to tell you about Indeed. Workplace chaos, deadlines stacking up, inbox overflowing. The one position you have to fill is still open. Come on now, people. What are you waiting for? Indeed. Sponsored jobs is what you need. You need Indeed. Indeed Sponsored Jobs helps you reach the people who actually fit what you're looking for. Skills, experience, location. So you're not just hoping the right candidate stumbles across your post, but they actually see it because you put it in the right spot. That's what Indeed Sponsored Jobs does. As a matter of fact, how about this stat? In the brief amount of time I've been talking to you, Indeed Sponsored Jobs has helped find 27 hires. That's according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching and more time interviewing candidates who actually check all the boxes with Indeed Sponsored Jobs. Less time searching, more time filling roles. Less stress, less time, more results. It's called efficiency. When you need the right person to cut through the chaos, this is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. How about this? Listeners and viewers of this show, they'll get $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. That's Indeed.com/podcast. And make sure you help us out, by the way, by telling them you heard about it on this podcast, Locked On 76ers. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire. This is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. And how about the Everydayer Club? Sign up at LockedOn76ers.supercast.com. That's LockedOn76ers.supercast.com. to be a part of the Everydayer Club. It's built for you, you Locked On 76ers and 76ers fans, ad-free, plus members-only Discord access and more. So head to LockedOn76ers.supercast.com to get in on the Everydayer Club. Keith, I want to start it out. 76ers TTP. putting it out there saying Sixers are going to beat the Spurs and lose to the Jazz. I had this exact thought when I woke up this morning.
I did too.
And I do like the line. Okay, you did too. Okay. I just watched, excuse me, I don't make the rules. I just watched this stupid team says 76ers TTP. I could not agree more. I had the same thought. They're going to bounce back tonight from the loss against the Celtics. They're going to hand the Spurs 2 losses in a row. And then they're going to wet the bed against the Jazz. That was the first thought I had when I woke up this morning. Maybe that says more about me and my own sickness than anything else. But Keith, obviously, you already said it wouldn't surprise you either.
No, it wouldn't. But I do think, I woke up this morning thinking, like, wow, this is one of those games where the 76ers typically win. The only reservation that I have today is the fact that the Spurs are coming off of a loss. You know, like the fact that, you know, like they're coming off a loss. It is the last game of their trip, but they're coming off a loss. They're coming off of playing in New York City. You know, they took the train down to Philly. They've been thinking about it for 2 days, and now they're ready to play. But I do think, like, I was thinking the same thing you was, but then I'm looking at the Utah Jazz and who's going to be on the floor in the fourth quarter. Heck, they may bench everybody in the third quarter, knowing that the Sixers struggle in the third. So they say, guess what? We're not going to play our guys in the third quarter, but we'll bring them back in the fourth, right? But here's the deal. Like, I think for the 76ers to win, Maxey is going to have another big game again, right? I mean, that's just going to be – I mean, other people are going to have to step up. But the good thing against Maxey, for whatever reason, he loves playing the Spurs. He gets off on playing gets off against the Spurs. You know, he just loves them, playing them. Like, he's averaged 42 points and 7.5 assists in his past 2 games against them. And that includes when he had a 52-point performance in triple overtime, was it?
Double overtime
on April the 7th, 2024. So, you know, that's the one thing you can count on, Maxey having a big game against them.
Mm. The interesting thing is, so obviously the 70-point game from Joel Embiid was pretty incredible. Later that same year, Maxey dropped 52, and there was no Joel Embiid in that game. It was a double overtime game. It was a Sixers win, but Maxey just had his way, especially in the second half against the Spurs, and helped propel the Sixers to victory. I'm on the same line of thinking as you are, but like both you have that thought of, yeah, watch them beat the Spurs and then lose to the Jazz. And then, yes, you have the reservation of, all right, well, the Spurs just lost. It was their first loss in 11 games, or 12 games, actually. Okay. Are they going to have enough in the tank to bounce back and beat the Sixers? Well, yeah, if they play their brand of basketball and Wemby's on, then they're going to win that game, and the Sixers can't find a way to stop them, then, yeah, the Spurs are going to win. But I also don't look at it as another game of Tyrese Maxey going 4 for 18 from the floor the way he did in the first half against the Celtics before he was able to get 20 in the second half. So it's all going to come down to Maxey tonight. I mean, look, we talked about stopping Victor Wembanyama. The Spurs are also having the same conversation. You can look at 30 points in 3 career games that Wembanyama has averaged against the Sixers to go along with 11 plus rebounds in those 3 games. Or you could look at it as Tyrese Maxey averaging those 42, 43 points per game over the last 2 games against the Spurs and how he has been able to get it going. It seems over the last couple of years to be a good matchup for Maxey, and he clearly has to be the star of the show. VJ Edgecombe has to be that Robin to the Batman of Tyrese Maxey tonight. And we'll talk about Kelly Oubre a little bit more later, but he's another guy that's got to get it going. If the Sixers win this game tonight, I think 2 things have to happen. Maxey's got to go off to the numbers that you pointed out, and somebody else has to be a go-to guy. I'll give you a perfect example. Not this time the Sixers lost to the Celtics, but the prior game. Out of nowhere, Justin Edwards was 5 of 6 from 3. Like, Justin Edwards actually led them in scoring with 23 points in that game. There needs to be somebody that crawls out from under a rock that you didn't see coming. Like, I'm not including VJ Edgecombe in this because I think he's going to get his 20 tonight. He might get you 25 tonight. Hopefully he does the same thing with Maxey going off. But then somebody else has to be that third scorer for the Sixers. You need that big game from Maxey. You need a solid game from VJ. And you need a surprise game from somebody else that you didn't see coming if the Sixers are, in fact, going to pull this out, Keith. But you're absolutely right. It starts with Tyrese Maxey having himself a big night.
And also, it starts with that, but they also need to do a pretty good job on De'Aaron Fox, right? De'Aaron Fox is a guy who, is coming off one of his worst performances of the season, against the Knicks in that blowout. He had 7 points in 31 minutes, right? He shot 1 for 6 from 3. He was 3 for 10 from the field. He did have 6 assists. But, in order for the 76ers to beat them, they got to find a way to make sure that he continues this funk that he's in. And, because as much as Wemby has been the star of the team, Fox has been, efficient. He's been playing extremely well. Like the game before that, he shot 6 for 8. The game prior to that, 8 for 15. Now, he didn't shoot the ball particularly well when they played Detroit. He was only 4 for 17 from the field, which is ouch, right? But against the Sacramento Kings, he was 7 for 11. So he doesn't typically shoot the ball quite a bit, but he's been extremely efficient. And I feel like the 76ers have to stop him. They also have to stop Stephen Castle, right? Now, when we look at the Sixers and we look at the Sixers when they especially go up against athletic guards, guys who can get to the rim, they tend to struggle. They, as good as Tyrese Maxey is getting steals, and as good as a defender that VJ Edgecombe is, it just seems like they have a tough time when guys penetrate and go to the cup. And both of these guys have that ability to do that. Tyrese Maxey is regarded as the second fastest guard in the NBA. De'Aaron Fox is regarded as the fastest. So, this is a matchup that I think that, we want to see. We want to see what they can do defensively against them, because as much as Wemby is the beast, you got to shut these guards down in order to win the game.
On the Sixers side of things, and I totally agree, on the Sixers side of things, one of the things that was so impressive about their win over the Heat, for instance, they came back from a 3-game road trip. They went 2-1 on that road trip. They come home where they've obviously had a lot of struggles, and they look like a team that was in control. They look like a team that was happy to be in front of their hometown fans again. So now that they play the Celtics, they lose to the Celtics. I know I wouldn't call one game a road trip, but they went on the road, and now they're going to be back home. It looked like in their last game, it was one of the rare occasions this season that you've seen the Sixers come back from a road trip of 2 or more games, so in this case 3, and actually come like they were ready to go. Looked like they enjoyed sleeping in their own beds. Looked like they enjoyed maybe a home-cooked meal, as people like to say, and then we're out and ready to play ball. And that has not been the case for the majority of this season. Look, it's grasping at straws when you just talk about a team that finally could play better at home. But do you see them possibly turning a corner in the last month and a half of the season and trying to really figure out how to play at home again, especially after being away the night before?
Not based off of what I saw the last game against Boston. I mean, the Sixers look like a team that needs.
Well, yeah, that was on the road. Sure, sure.
Yeah, it was on the road, but even at home, because you might get something from the crowd, but they're losing the same way, like lack of rebounding, opposing guards torching you, inopportune turnovers. I mean, it happens if you're home and you're away. I think that maybe they can get a lift tonight, but it also, like, when the crowd, let's be real, the crowd kind of feels like a little cheated at times, because, and the reason why I'm saying this is,
I know what you're saying.
This ain't the team that you thought you were going to root for right now. Mm-hmm. And aside from, we already know that Tyrese Maxey is the guy, but aside from VJ Edgecombe, who else can you say like really stepped up outside of the big three or outside of Maxey to make you think like, okay, we got a really good chance consistently? So, You know what I mean? The thing about being at home is if it goes bad, y'all gonna hear on NBC Sports Tonight or Prime, wherever you watch the game at, or on
it's nationally televised. It's nationally televised again.
You're gonna hear the boos, and then you're gonna hear the music played really, really loud to drain out the boos. That's what you're gonna hear if it doesn't go right. So they just need to get this stuff together. They need to get it together.
Maybe they could pull a fan out of the stands, and instead of take a half-court shot at halftime, maybe they actually play the power forward or center position tonight, and maybe they'll have better odds of getting a rebound. We'll cross our fingers for that.
The one good thing about it is that typically a guy tends to play well against his former team. Players normally do.
Okay,
so because you want to show them yo, why did y'all get rid of me? Why did I have to go to Atlanta last year? So you want to show that, but at the same time, they're a small team, man, and we're talking about they're going up against an athletic squad. An athletic squad.
All right. Well, cross our fingers for that. All right. When we come back, talk a little bit about Kelly Oubre. And I do want to reminisce a little bit with you, Keith, when it comes to that 70-point game of Joel Embiid, because that was just a thing of beauty. We'll talk about that a little bit later. This is Locked On 76ers and Locked On Sixers YouTube channel. Back after this. And right now, it's time to tell you about BetterHelp. That's right. We all need that little boost from time to time. Maybe somebody to talk to. That's where BetterHelp comes in. BetterHelp, by the way, is especially helping out in the month of March because it's time to celebrate women, especially during International Women's Day, and to recognize just how much they carry at work, relationships, families, all of that. So let's celebrate that strength, and it's time to do that with BetterHelp for everybody. I think when you think about the strong female figures in your life, think about people that needed somebody to talk to from time to time. And again, BetterHelp can be that person for you. Therapy can help with everything in your life, creating balance, setting healthy boundaries, also supporting your overall well-being. With over 30,000 licensed therapists and more than 6 million people served worldwide, BetterHelp is the world's largest online therapy platform, and it works. So you need help, you go to BetterHelp. BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA. Fill out a short questionnaire, get matched with a licensed therapist, and if it's not the right fit, switch at any time. It's just that simple with BetterHelp. Your emotional well-being matters. Find support and feel lighter in therapy. Sign up and get 10% off at BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA. That's BetterHelp, BetterHelp, BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA. And how about FanDuel college basketball? It's the month of March. What does that mean for college basketball? Some good times is what it means. Big games, tight spreads, momentum swings every single night. From early tip-offs to late-night West Coast shootouts, there's always action on the board. And now FanDuel is giving you a way to turn that energy into even bigger potential wins with a college basketball parlay profit boost. You can build any college hoops parlay you want, rivalry games, ranked matchups, whatever fits. It's a good time. You can also get point spreads, totals, player props. How much fun will that be? All on FanDuel. Go safe or go bold. Fortune favors the bold, as they say. Ride with the team you've been following all season long. It's your parlay. It's your style. Do what you want with it. Head to FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to get started. FanDuel, play your game. Before we get into anything, Keith, with regard to Kelly Oubre, I did earlier this morning watch the extended highlights of Joel Embiid's 70-point game against the Spurs. It's just fun. I mean, it is the definition. That game is the definition of a man amongst boys. Like, all due respect to Victor Wembanyama and even younger then, obviously. But, man, Joel Embiid understood the assignment that night. It's just there was finesse. There was bully ball, a whole lot of that, considering he took 23 foul shots in that game, was 21 of 23. Now, I asked you this before the show. You and my mind, our minds were on the same page here. I thought Embiid at least had 6 threes in that game. He had one. He hit 1 3 in that game. Everything else was the foul line and finesse ball at the top of the key. just with a step or two within the 3-point line, and everything else was down on the blocks, just playing bully ball, man. It was fascinating. When you think about that 70-point game from Embiid, is there anything that jumps to mind immediately?
I mean, it was weird because it just seemed like he couldn't miss. Like everything just seemed effortless to him, right? And Wemby, you felt bad for the guy because like this was your welcome to the NBA type moment, as they say, like when you're going up against somebody. But Joel just couldn't miss anything. Everything was fluid. Everything worked well that night, and to me, it was like, wow, this guy, you had to say it, like he's the best player in the world at that particular time, right? I mean, and the crazy part is, I hate to say this, I know this is not doing that. I felt like the season he had after that, when he, was that was the year he got hurt. So like right then and there, he was like the best player in the world. I mean, that was the year after he got MVP. So, I mean, yeah, man, like to me, it was just everything was effortless. And that was a crazy season. Everything aligned right. I mean, we think about it. He was averaging more points than minutes played that season. And he went out there and got 70 that night. It's sad when you think about it, because that was January 22nd, 2024. And the reason why I'm saying it's sad is because, from that point, his career was supposed to continue to elevate, right? Joel should be recognized right now as the numero uno player in the league. But since then, he had those injuries. So to me, it's like, it's great. But then also when you think about it, you're always like, dang, what could have been when you think of Joel?
Yeah, the last thing that jumps to mind when I think about that game, though, is how much fun it was in the fourth quarter when you see him get to 60, and then you could hear it in the crowd. They wanted him to get to 70. It was there was just so much electricity that was coming through the TV, and you could just feel it at the then Wells Fargo Center. The 76ers, just that crowd that night was just – every heartbeat, man, was in sync with Joel Embiid. That was a pretty special night. 70 points, obviously, will do that, but the crowd being into it the way they were, the fact that it was a home game, the crowd getting the opportunity to see that in South Philadelphia was pretty fantastic. As far as tonight's game,
but you know what? I'm gonna say this. Real quick. I'm gonna say this real quick. So it was crazy because on March the 15th, 2024, I remember tweeting, the 76ers have lost 17 of 24 games since Joel Embiid scored 70 points in a 133-123 victory over the San Antonio Spurs on January 22nd. The joy they felt that night seemed like decades ago. And that's why when I say, you always think about what could have been, because after that, it just seemed like everything started falling apart with the injuries and whatnot, and the team start struggling. Then they start breaking. They start making trades. It was, it was just a sad situation from moving forward after that.
Oh boy. So Oubre go off tonight? Is he the guy? Is he the number 3 guy tonight that comes up with the big night? Seeing him get 5 points against the Celtics, I believe it was. That was rough. 2 of 10 from the floor. That was rough, Keith. What do we get from Oubre tonight?
You know what? Oubre, it would be nice if Kelly Oubre could have a nice offensive performance. It just seems like he's been a little bit inconsistent as of late, right? He'll have like a game. What was it? He shot 2 for 10, but the game before that, he shot 8 for 13. Before that, he was 5 for 8, 5 for 13, 7 for 15, 4 for 13, 0 for 6. So he has to perform well. But I think Kelly Oubre's biggest impact for the 76ers is going to have to be crashing the boards and providing defense, right? It will be great for him to get his start making some shots and shoot and score more points than he had 5 or 4. He actually had 4 points.
4 points,
more than 4 points. But to me, The third leading scorer needs to be, from now on out, has to be Quentin Grimes, right? Kelly needs to step up, but Quentin Grimes has to be that third scorer. You know, you said you want to go with this 3 guards tandem. You want to do all these other things. Mm-hmm. Quentin needs to get more shots, and then he has to be better with his ball handling, but he needs to score because Kelly is going to have to crash the boards, defend at a high level, right? And do a lot of the other things. Whereas I feel like Quentin is going to be in positions where he's going to get some nice catch and shoot opportunities, mm-hmm. and he could drive the lane that he did before. So I feel like, yes, Kelly needs to step up, but Quentin has to be the third leading scorer and have an impactful game for the 76ers to win tonight.
All right. I'm going to cross my fingers for that, my friend. His name is Keith Pompey. My name is Marc Farzetta. We appreciate you guys watching and listening to Locked On 76ers. Make sure you guys like and subscribe. Also, if you haven't done it yet, sign up for the Everydayer Club as well, where you get ad-free episodes of Locked On 76ers, as well as access to the Discord channel as well. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Back with you guys tomorrow. Also, you postcast people, I'll be with you guys tonight following the Sixers-Spurs matchup to give instant reaction on that game. So make sure you check it out for the Locked On 76ers postcast following Sixers-Spurs tonight. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Have a great rest of your day, everybody. See you later on.